from the different agencies in Norway merged into this new agency from 1st January 2020. The intention is to gather together the major players, the major sort of groups in digitalization in the Norwegian public sector together into a new agency. As the minister said that time, this agency will be the Norwegian government's foremost tool in digitalization, not only actually for the public sector, but also for the Norwegian society in general. Our agency has 4 major roles. I will go into 2 of the roles. The first one in Norwegian per receiver. We have internal discussions what we should call it in Norwegian, in English. Someone uses the word or the phrase rule setter. Some others use other phrases, but I will use rule setter in this context because we are setting rules for how the digitalization in Norway, at least in the public sector, should be. The other role that I will also come into, you do see my mouse pointer?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, good, because I used to point in the presentation. The other role
Perfect.
that I will go into is the provider of common solutions, building blocks, so to say, the digital common solutions. The other 2 roles I will not go into. The first one, the rule setter role that our agency has. Among many other things, we have the responsibility for this national framework for information governance that I will go more detailed into. Other things that we have responsibility for are, for instance, the overall architectural principles, framework for actually interoperability, I think, the Norwegian word, the common ecosystem, reference architectures, and we also are responsible for reference catalog, which is an overview of ICT standards for the public sector, both the mandatory but also recommended standards. For instance, we in this catalog we have archive standards. We have also standards for concept descriptions, and we also standard for describing data sets and data catalogs, etc. So this is some of the areas that we have responsibility for when regarding the role of rule setter. As I said, we are setting rules. For instance, using the standards, what should be done. The other role is the provider of common solutions. I will not go into the other roles that are the, for instance, the first 3 points, bullet points, but I will touch upon the common solution, which is the data portal in Norway, in Norwegian, felles datakatalog. It's a common overview of the data sets, the concepts, the APIs, the information models, etc., that the Norwegian public sector together has. Then I will go into the topic information governance. But to start with, I will use an illustrative example. This is a drawing where you have a user here, and we have 2 agencies. The one is NAV. I don't remember the English name for NAV, but they have, for instance, responsibility for the labor market, social service, etc. And we also have a what was the English name? The education funding, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. That you may apply for financial support for your higher education, for instance, university study, etc. But the point with this example is, if you are unlucky that you are uføre, what's the English name for that? That you are not able,
unable to work.
yeah, that's you're unable to work. So you will not have income, for instance. So if you are so unlucky, the rule is that, of course, depending on the percentage of the unavailability, etc., and also the duration, etc., you may have your loan from this education financing system deleted or reduced. So that's a good thing. But the solution currently, I checked this morning on the website of the Lånekassa, this financing system. In order to apply for this reduction or deletion of your loan, study loan, you have to provide documentation that you are unable to work. The documentation from NAV. You have to get the documentation, you have to send to the Lånekassa, this agency. Not online, you have to send it. So what's wrong with that?
I have a question. How important is it for this document to be verifiable? I guess it's quite important.
It's very important because the condition, the precondition is that you are unable to work, and it's also sort of depending on how many percentage you are unable, and how long that you are unable to work. So that's the critical documentation in order to consider if you are entitled to be reduced your loan, etc. So it's very important, this documentation. But the point is that this documentation is produced by the public sector, and we as users, we are pigeons. We sort of fly between the public agencies to be the pigeon to bring the documents from one agency to the other, physically, not digitally. We have a government white paper, which is called the Digital Agenda for Norway, version 2.0, I think. One of the statement, the political intention and the statements in this white paper is that we have to have our users in the center. The public services should be seamless. So where is the seamless service in this drawing, in this current situation? You have to provide the documentation yourself as a user. Where is the user in the center? You have to bring the documents from one agency to other agency. Where is the seamless service? Another statement from this white paper is that the public sector should not, or should reuse the information that the user has already provided. But thing which is worse here is that this is not a information that the user has provided. This is a document that the public sector has produced. So it's even worse in this case. And a third statement, political statement, is that it should be automatically. If it is your right, you should not apply for it. It should come to you. So this is actually, it's not only a political statement or political intention. In Norway, we have this frikort in health services. You have to pay a certain amount for the services that you get from the healthcare institutions, your physicians, etc. But when you have reached this amount per year, you get a free access. You don't have to pay more. So that's the policy. The solution is currently now is that you get automatically this free what do you call frikort. It's a certificate that you don't have to pay. That's the one thing you get automatically. I think from this year, or if it's not last year, it will be electronically sent to you. Before, or perhaps still, it's a piece of paper that is sent to you in your to your home address. That's the one thing. The other thing is that if, and it's quite often because you go above the this upper limit, then you have already paid too much. The money will be transferred automatically to your bank account. So as I said, this is not only a political intention, it's actually also a reality. So concerning this case, which I started with, if you are so unlucky that you are not able to work, to have income anymore, the public sector now has decided that it's the public sector together. The public sector already knows this fact about you. Why should you apply? It should come to you. You should get a text to your mobile. Congratulations, we have deleted your study loan. Because you don't have to say actually because, but congratulations. Why should you, as a user, know this rule? Why should you actively apply? So this is not the example that we actually are aiming at. What we are aiming at, this is the vision. This is a sort of drawing, the architecture drawing of the city, the future city, or actually already here today, our city. The different parts of the city, I will walk you through later. But just show here that it should not be the case that you have to get the document from NAV and send to Lånekassa. It should be automatically transferred from NAV to Lånekassa with your consent or with the permission in force of in terms of law, for instance. So this is what we are aiming at. But how do we get there? That's the question.
Jim?
Yeah.
Just a comment on the last figure. It was nice, but I was thinking that at the same time, NAV needs to know that this guy has a loan. So there really has to be a communication between those two, because why should now NAV send something to Lånekassen?
No. NAV doesn't send automatically. In the future, or I will come back to this catalog of events. Lånekassa may sort of listen to the events from NAV, for instance.
Okay.
Yeah. Then give a message, for instance, to the user. Do you want? Actually, it should be proactive.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So Lånekassa will know that those persons have got the decision that they are unable to work, etc. So you see the picture. Yeah. Okay. Then now we go. It's here. This is the sort of ambition levels that we decided in a pre-study in 2015. SCOT is a group of the top leaders of the major players in Norway. For instance, the tax administration, NAV, etc. So they are together to coordinate digitalization in the public sector. All the members of SCATA at that time, we had many different workshops with different work groups. We agreed upon at that time, 2015, this ambition drawing. The goal is to reuse data and services. It should be the main rule, the rule of thumb. Not use should be not the major picture. So, but in order to do that, the things that you reuse should be available. Data and services. By services, are currently the RT services, for instance, APIs, etc. They should be available. But the very first step is to know what is possible to be available. So we have to have a common overview of the data that exists in the public sector. In the bottom is it's a common framework and also the model for how to govern information and information governance, etc. And this is reflected in the white paper that I mentioned, Digital Agenda for Norway 2.0. I will not read all those texts because it's in Norwegian and I have to translate, etc. But the point is that intention is reflected in this government document. And also, it's also, this is the annual circular, which is sort of a summary of the requirements, the march order actually to the public sector. This from 2016, this circular also requires at least the national agencies to have reuse of information. So that's the main point that, as this text says, that public sector should share and reuse information that the user already has provided. We have also a digital strategy which also followed up the intention. So as we often say, how many times you have this picture that from the agencies, that the directors, the people from the agencies, they won't do that. They want to do that. And then you have the government, the white paper, Stortingsmelding, also says that. And also the requirements from the government, Digitaliseringsdirektoratet, this annual circular, also requires that. How many times this happens in Norway? No.
So how this is dates from 2016 and 15. Have it been revised over the last years, or how we're going about that?
The ambition, the direction is currently still valid. You should reuse. You should share data, because of the sort of ambition. The ambitions are formulated very generally. So it's still valid. You have to have overview. You have to have the things available. You have to reuse if it's already there. So it's still valid. The political documents, we have several different documents, but the intention, the political intention is still there. These requirements from the government to the public sector, they have revised several times with a different wording, but the intention is still there. You have to share and reuse data. So that's a very...
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So this is the sort of a goal, the picture we draw already in 2015. This is actually also EU, also the ambition of EU This is from a document from EU. In the bottom, you have base registries, which, for instance, the Folkeregisteret, the register of the people living in Norway, etc. Then the intention is to have a ERBR, European Register of Base Registries. So you have overview of all those base registries in the member states. And there will be a TOOP architecture. TOOP stands for the once only principle. So that's also the EU principle, once only. If you have provided this information to the public sector, it's enough, only once, unless the information is changed, of course, updated. But if you have already said that I'm married, I should not say it more times to other parts of the public sector. Yes.
So, when it comes to the AIDAS 2.0, which is talking about wallets and stuff, how does that fit into this ambition? Is it will things have to change, or that's very technical? But in terms of
that's a sort of technical solution-wise different solution, but the ambition, the political direction is still the same. You should share the information if it's already there across the borders of the countries, not only as nationally cross-sector, but also cross-border. So that's the ambition with the registry, with the overview of the registries, with an architecture that supports for sharing. The point is to have this single digital market, and also I added single digital gateway. I will come back to that. So that's the ambition, the political direction from EU. I will say about the single digital gateway. There is a single digital gateway regulation. Here is some citation from the regulation. It says that the member states should establish a single digital gateway to provide access to information, data, to procedures and assistance. That's the services. Here are some live events listed. This regulation says that by the end of 2023, it's not far away, the member state should provide solutions for those live events. Take education, for instance. You may apply for education from Norway in Germany, for instance. You want to go to a university in Germany, then you can sit at home with your mobile, for instance, apply for the university admission. Then there will be documents that you have to provide. Then you can give your consent to get the diploma, for instance, or other certificates that are stored in Norway. You give your consent, say that the solution in Germany can get the documents digitally instead of print out, send in ordinary post to Germany. So that's one of example. In order to apply for education, you sort of must provide birth certificate. Then there's another agency in Norway. So the point is that with your consent, you don't have to bring all those documents physically, print it out, send in the ordinary post, but you can let the agencies exchange the information digitally. That's the intention at the EU level. Yes.
So this is starting to point in the technical architecture when you start to say
Yes.
one digital gateway.
Yes.
And from my understanding, from the wallet's perspective, those two doesn't necessarily collaborate in the same direction, or do one then kind of say that, okay, Norway offers this digital gateway, but the user takes a wallet and consumes that gateway to then bring the data towards the next country's gateway and pass it away? Because connecting this gateway across the whole country or across the whole Europe doesn't necessarily become very efficient when it's really the user that's in the center. So I just wonder if that has been discussed a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not updated at the solution level how at the EU level the solution will be, and also, of course, not at the member states level, because there will be different solutions, etc. But the point is that it should be a single digital gateway, a sort of a single point of contact in each member state, such that it will be possible through this single point of contact to get information about the services. For instance, how to apply for university study, what is necessary as documentation, and also through that gateway you provide the information. So sorry that I don't know the technical solutions sort of at the
no problem. It's just that there's this shift towards, like, with EDAS coming in, it's a shift towards centralizing everything into one access point, and then rather distributing data with the citizens. And I just wonder if this regulation comes into play and if they're starting to fight each other, because EDAS 2.0 it kind of does want to decentralize things a little bit more than putting everything behind one gateway. So I wonder if it's worth to bring that up as a discussion point if you guys work with this, because
no, not me, my personally. I have not been involved in this kind of discussions. So yeah.
It's just interesting to see that this is probably very good work, but we shouldn't have to work on things that's conflicting and trying to come out at the same time. I should try to figure out what's the best thing to get.
Yeah, I agree with you. But as I said, I don't know the situation at that level, so I'm not sure if it's conflicting or not. But I agree with you in principle. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing. Please continue.
Yeah. So this is the EU intention, but in order to do that at the national level, it's a some speed. It's a cooperation which should be. So so this is back to our city, the landscape, different parts of the city. We have here the tower. I used to say that it's a overview tower that you can climb up at the top of the tower, see the whole city. So it's the data portal. .norge.no. That's the address to the data portal, which I will come a little bit later into what it contains. But the overview comes from all the agencies, the organizations, at least the public sector. So the public sector organizations, they have to have order in-house. They have to know what they themselves have as data, as definitions, as APIs, etc. So they have to have their own overview. Those blue lines illustrates the automatic harvesting that I will come back to. So the point is, this is a distributed architecture. We don't build up a sort of a central solution that everybody must use the central solution. A centralized solution. It's a distributed solution. You use your system, you have your overview in your organization, and publish it. This centralized catalog will automatically harvest the overviews from all of you. I will come back to that. But in order to do that, we must have sort of common rules, specifications, standards for how to do that. That's the framework. That's a part of the work in the framework. So that's this part of our city. in our city, we have also EU. When we do national specification standardization, we base our national specification and standards on international standards. EU specifications go, we have to use EU specifications. So the standards and specifications from EU are very important. So we also participate in the working groups in EU, for instance, to work with the solutions. No, not only the solutions, but also the standards specifications from EU.
What are some of these standards that's coming, like, that's important to the work you guys are doing?
I will show you pretty soon what kind of standards. Only some of the examples of the standard. But back to this.
No problem.
Back to this framework for information governance. The left-hand part are sort of general things, principles, models, etc. The right-hand part are the sort of concrete standards, etc. We explicitly say standards versus specification, guides, reference models, etc. Because standards has a sort of have a standard. It has been through a standardization process. As function, it could be a specification, could be a guide, could be a reference model. So the point is that if it's called a standard, it has been through a standardization process. But the function could be specification. What to achieve could be a guide, how to do that, etc. We have some principle, I think.
When you say standard, are you thinking about international standard or Norwegian? I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
What's your definition of standard here?
Okay, I think I look at the time now. I think I should speed up a little bit. So I just say very shortly that we have this reference catalog, which I mentioned, that it's an overview of the standards with mandatory and recommended standards. So I just skip over this. Here is the concrete example of standards. This is the data portal, datakatalog. When you go to datakatalog, you will meet those different parts. We have data sets. That's description of data sets. Then it's not the data sets itself, but what kind of data we have. So it's data sets, it's the APR, that's sort of the technical point where you can get the data, and also concepts which describe data sets, etc., and also information model which describe data set, and also the new one, which is currently beta version, is the overview of the services and the events. Standards. For data set, we use a national standard which is called the DCAT APNO. It's the application profile, Norwegian application profile of DCAT. DCAT is a W3C recommendation, a standard, so to say. It's a real international standard. DCAT AP, the first two part, is an EU standard. So we use international and EU standards, make the Norwegian extensions which are necessary to have national standard. So I think that I sort of answered your question about the relationship between the national standards and international standards. So there are, just for use this example, there are three levels. DCAT is W3C, DCAT AP is AU, DCAT AP NO is the Norwegian version of the standard. We have 5 standards for how to deal with concepts. Currently, 3 of them are under revision. And we have also a standard for how to describe information models, and also a standard for describe events and services. This is also CPSV, Core Public Service Vocabulary, it stands for. CPSV AP is a EU standard, and we have this Norwegian version, which currently is a trial version. And also, as I said, we have guides on how to use these standards. So this is a sort of a very condensed picture of how the data portal and also the national standards work together. Sort of answer to your question about the national standard and international standard. We have several other standards, but only in this picture shows also only those. One example of that the different parts, if we go back, we have a data set, we have API, we have a concept, information model, etc. This is an example which shows that there are connections between those different parts. We have, for instance, this data set. I don't know how to say it in English, but we have a data set about data from kindergartens, etc. That's the data set. Not the data set itself, but the description of the data set. Since this is a data set about the kindergarten and it is school activity sorting, I don't know how to say it in English, but after school, the school hours, kids may remain in the school into this sort of kindergarten-like, but not kindergarten. So kids can still
after school activity.
Yeah.
After school activity. Thank you. But because this is a data set about after school activity, then you have to, in order to reuse this data set, you have to know what this is about. So if you click on this one, you come into the concept parts of the data portal. Then you can read about this concept, what it is about per definition, who is responsible for that, which data set this concept is used, etc. So that's an example about the cross-reference between the different parts of the data model. This is a sort of data model which shows the connection, only a set of the references, the connections between those different parts. The colors are sort of tried to reflect the different parts of the data model. Data set may be described by concept, and also services may be described by concept. For instance, after school activity, what it is. So that's a concept. Data may be distributed as a distribution and also through APIs, for instance, data service. And the data set and also API may be described by information models. That's the information model part.
I see that you guys have a lot of different types of information model. You guys support JSON LD and other types. Is that correct?
I will come back to that pretty soon. This is the data model, which sort of describe the different parts and also references and the connections between the parts. There we have. The standards and specifications are based on the ISO W3C. The most of the specifications for information governance that we have now in Norway are RDF based. That's JSON LD you mentioned, for instance. So the metadata is described, or maybe described, use RDF. Then you can have the JSON LD representation of the RDF. So the whole data catalog, the whole data portal is RDF based. So therefore, we have all those metadata descriptions in machine readable format, RDF based at least. Yeah. In order to use the standards and specifications, we have a guide where it is necessary. We have machine readable validation rules using SHA-code, and we have also validation service, the validator. So people implementing the solutions according to the specifications, they use this validation service to validate their implementation. We also provide a library of different scripts, etc., to make the implementations easier out there. As I said, we have this distributed architecture, which is based on automatically harvesting and also registration solution, which I will show you here. The major agencies in Norway, they have their own overviews. They publish their overviews of the data sets, concepts, etc., according to the common specification in RDF, for instance. Then our data portal will automatically harvest from their overviews. But for those who don't have solutions, or they are not going to invest in solutions, we have registration solutions. So actually, you have no excuse not to publish overview of your data, so to say. Either you have system publish it in accordance with the common specification, or use the registration solution that we provide. So no excuse at all not doing that. We use the same harvesting solution, either if it's from the different organizations out there, or it's from the registration solution. It's possible to use demo users. So just contact us, then we will create a user for you in our demo environment. This is the picture when I log in as the into our demo user. You have a possibility to register data sets, API concepts. But what I actually are going to show you a little bit is this Behandlingsoversikt. It's a solution to be used in connection to GDPR. So this is a overview of things that you may register in Behandlingsoversikt, which is necessary in order to implement GDPR. What the data processing is about, who is responsible for the data sets, what kind of activities you have on the data set, and also what kind of information it is. So I have clipped a little screenshot here. It's, for instance, which kind of data you are registering about those people. For instance, address, birth dates, etc. So that's the category, and also category of the people that you register. For instance, all citizens above age 20. So that's the kind of thing you can register. You may register, and also if you are delivering data to others, so that if you do that, you have to register who are the receivers. If it's outside of the country, etc. So that's a solution we build upon the data portal, the registration solution, in order to implement the GDPR. I think that, yeah, we go for landing now. This is a summary of what I have walked you through. This is the ambition level. This is our city. In order to achieve those different ambition levels, you have to have the overview, the common overview, total overview. The overviews are based on the overview from the agencies, different organizations. We have to have common specifications, which are based on EU and international standards. So, common questions. I think you have already had, yeah.
Thank you very much for this presentation, and it's very insightful. We have been able to ask questions along the way, so we don't have to worry about the last 4 minutes. But I have a couple more questions, but Digdir, do you have some before I go at it?
No, thank you. But just go on. I just wondering. This is really a detail. I wonder why do you use the numbers after Digdir punctum no? Then you have a number and you add another number once. What's the number is about?
The numbers were, I tried them, and it's just a redirection to a more easier, or is that basically a smaller URL that leads to information governance page.
Okay. So is it something you did? Okay, good. Thanks.
Yeah, I wonder is there any ways, any portal direction or something where, for example, an organization like us can contribute to the work that's happening, or comment, or try to assist in what the future will look like, basically?
There's actually different things. If I understand you correctly, your contribution could be at the different things. For instance, the national standards, what kind of standard we should have. That's one thing. The other thing is the direction digitalization should go. So I'm not sure which part.
First of all, direction is will be the best, because standards also always follows directions. So what can one do with the direction?
At the sort of lower level, not at the government and the political level, we have actually a what do you call the faglig arena for the Informasjonsforvaltning in Norwegian. That's a meeting place, which is digital now because of the COVID situation. So it has been a digital meeting place. It is every Wednesday, 2 hours from 9 to 11. We have a national digital meeting, which usually will be around 100 participants. So we have different speakers about different topics, but related to data sharing and the reuse, digitalization. So that's a